All right, and we are live. What's going on, everybody? Welcome into the Sunday live stream. We got a nice little NBA slate here to go over, so excited to get into it. 5-gamer. We got some injury news that's pending, so we're going to talk about it, the different impacts that it'll have for our lineups, talk about some of the top plays that I'm looking at right now on both websites, and be answering any questions you have in the chat. Patrick, welcome into the stream. Excited for the slate tonight? Yes, sir. And yeah, so we'll do a little bit of a game-by-game as we always do here, starting out on DraftKings. We'll talk about FanDuel as well. If you have any questions, certainly leave them in the chat. Patrick says, how you doing, KJK? Doing very good, Patrick. Hope you're doing good yourself. Nice little Sunday, watching some football. I got some season-long fantasy implications on the line. The first round of the playoffs, which it's a little bit of a different concept for me, mostly DFS for me now. But yeah, so good day for me for sure. Been hanging out, having a good day. So excited to get into this NBA slate, breaking it down for you guys. And yeah, so let's do a little bit of a game by game here. Talk about some of these implications that we're talking about, and we'll get into it. So as always, have any questions in the chat, certainly let me know. And yeah, looks like we were doing pretty good on the stream. I don't know if we're cutting in or out. Let me know if we are, but I think we're gonna roll with it. And we'll talk about this first game. Brooklyn taking on Detroit. It's going to be the first one. And as far as who we're looking to in this game right now, for a pay-up option, Kevin Durant's certainly standing out as one of the top options on the slate. So he's someone that you're going to be looking to right off the bat for sure. And one of the most obvious candidates to be playing in our lineups on the slate tonight, because there is no James Harden. So he's certainly obviously going to be a fantastic play for that reason. And certainly would be prioritizing him in your lineups. The only thing that's a little difficult about this slate right now is the fact that we don't have all the injury news, so we're not quite sure, or we haven't quite got confirmation on some of these guys that we might be willing to play in the later games, depending upon some more injury news that's coming out. So that's obviously some big news that we're going to want to monitor as we go along here. So we'll be keeping our eyes on the news. I haven't seen anything quite yet, but we do get confirmation there's no James Harden, so Kevin Durant's certainly going to make a lot of sense in this game. There's also no Jeremiah Grant on the Detroit side, so I do think that there's quite a few guys that are going to need a bump up on the Detroit side as well, that some people may not be factoring into the lineups quite as much as they should. So we'll talk about that. A guy like a Diallo, I think, is going to get a big bump up. Saddiq Bey is going to get a big bump up now, with there being no Jeremiah Grant. So I certainly think that they're going to both be, pretty good value options here, and guys that could surpass their price tag. So Saddiq Bey being one at 4.8, certainly have a lot of interest in him tonight. He can be a little bit inconsistent, but overall, I do think that he's a valid play for sure that could surpass his price tag. And the same rule can be said for Diallo as well. Down here at 3.6, I think he gets a little bit of a bump up in minutes, a little bit of a bump up in usage, just enough to be a threat on this slate at his respective price tag. So I think that he's a pretty intriguing value option that some people may not quite be looking to. And on the Brooklyn side of things, outside of Durant, really LaMarcus Aldridge is the second guy that stands out to me. The rest of the guys, they've been spreading these minutes so thin, it's a little bit scary to really want to be going there. But with that being said, certainly could if you'd like to. So I wouldn't call you crazy if you do want to go to him. And yeah, LaMarcus Aldridge, certainly another option that I wouldn't have an issue with you going to. If you would like to go to him on this slate tonight, don't have an issue with that whatsoever. So yeah, guys, that would be the first game here on the slate. As far as the second game overall, if you guys could let me know on your end how the stream's looking to you right now, that would be greatly appreciated. On my end, it's not looking like it's coming through too clear, so I'm just always looking to get feedback on that. That would be awesome. Dallas taking on Dallas taking on Oklahoma City is the second game on the slate. We did get confirmation there's no Luka Doncic. That's obviously going to give a big bump up to some other guys on this slate tonight. And The main guy is going to be Jalen Brunson. Jalen Brunson is my lock of the night. Absolutely love him. He's way too cheap across the industry. He's too cheap on DraftKings. He's too cheap on FanDuel. So he's one of the most obvious candidates to be playing in your lineups for sure, and someone that I would be prioritizing in a big way. Jalen Brunson should be able to absolutely smash at this price tag. He's just way too cheap. So he's someone that I certainly would be getting a lot of exposure to. He's my lock of the night for a reason. Like him a lot. Arizona says, KJK, what's Nurk's projection against T-Wolves? Only 6.1 on FanDuel. Yeah, we'll get to him on FanDuel specifically. I certainly do think that he's a very good play, so I think that's a good point. The Prince, what's going on, man? Welcome in. Gnarly says, what about Cade Cunningham? Yeah, Cade Cunningham's the most obvious candidate to get a big bump up, so sorry, I didn't mean to just skip over him. Sometimes I get a little distracted with the obvious, but yeah, he gets the biggest usage bump of the group, so Cade Cunningham's certainly going to be a tremendous play, and he does get the biggest bump out of any of them. So, yes, thank you for pointing that out. Cade Cunningham certainly going to be on my radar tonight, and a good play. So, Dallas taking on Oklahoma City. We talked about Luka Doncic being out. Obviously, Jalen Brunson, Tim Hardaway Jr., Kristaps Porzingis also going to be two guys that could get a big bump up in usage that you're certainly going to want to have some interest in on this slate tonight. So, no issues with you going to them. Dorian Finney-Smith is a little bit more of an inconsistent, not exactly the best fantasy point producer, but he's going to be playing a lot of minutes. And with there being no Jalen Brunson, he's certainly someone that could surpass his price tag as well. If you want to go there in tournaments, I'm not getting nearly as excited to play him as some of these other Dallas guys because he just doesn't produce at a very high rate on a fantasy point per minute basis. So it's not quite as interesting to be going to DFS. But could he go out there and put up 40 tonight? Absolutely. He has done it a little bit in the past. And then on the Oklahoma City side of things, Josh Giddey, Lou Dort, Shai Gilgeous-Alexander. It's very obvious where the usage is going for this team. Josh Giddey, priced very reasonably on FanDuel specifically, where he's only 5.5. They continue to just completely underprice him. So Josh Giddey over here as well, going to be a very good play at 5.5. Certainly will like him. And as far as anyone else on this squad, like I said, Lou Dort going to be another guy that's playing a lot of minutes, mid-30s minutes a game. Certainly could be getting there at that price tag. Going to like him. Shai Gilgeous-Alexander, if you're paying up for him, I do think that these other guys become a little bit less of a priority in your lineups. You got to keep in mind the the negative correlation. If you're paying up Shai Gilgeous-Alexander, some of these other guys may not have the biggest game because he's going to really be soaking up a lot of the usage to get there at this price tag. So just keep that in mind when you're building your lineups. Maybe not wanting to go to the cheaper guys. Darius Bazley, he's continuing to see a lot more minutes now. Only 24 minutes last time out, but that was due to the blowout. They got absolutely blown out, 116-95. So obviously, if the game were to stay closer, I think he can take some more minutes, and he is certainly another intriguing option for me in this game. So that's a little bit of a breakdown there. That one seems fairly obvious. New Orleans Pelicans taking on the San Antonio Spurs is going to be the next game on the slate. Now, as far as the totals in this game, I don't mean to skip over that. The Vegas lines are obviously very important. It's only a 207.5 in that Dallas-Oklahoma City game, 211.5 in the Brooklyn-Detroit game. The early games not nearly as fast as the late games. The 7 o'clock New Orleans Pelicans, San Antonio Spurs, that's a 220.5, a 222.5 for the Timberwolves Trailblazers, and a 220.5 for the Lakers. So something also to keep in mind when you're building your lineups. Obviously, the faster the game, the more fantasy points that would be scored in it. So may not want to be targeting these early games too much. But this game has a nice little total. We know exactly where the usage is going. Really just want to focus on the main guys in this one would be my suggestion to you. For the Spurs, that's going to be DeJounte Murray, Derek White, and Jakob Poeltl. Those three guys really stand out to me as the guys that are really dominating most of the usage and have the biggest upside. So those are the three guys I'd really be locking in on the San Antonio Spurs side of things. You could play a Keldon Johnson over a Derek White. I think that they're very negatively correlated, so I'm either playing Keldon Johnson or Derek White. And if I'm not playing Derek White, my pivot would be to Keldon Johnson. If I'm playing Keldon Johnson, my pivot would be to Derek White. So, that's kind of how I would approach that. And then on the New Orleans Pelicans side of things, you're looking to play Brandon Ingram, Jonas Valanciunas, Josh Hart. Really, those are the three main guys. So, and the other guys in this game, I really don't think it's all that necessary to get too cute with. Once again, keeping in mind that these guys are a little bit negatively correlated if you're playing in the same lineups. So you might not want to get too crazy playing too many of them. Pick your favorites and kind of go from there. I really do like Jonas Valanciunas in an up-tempo game that's expected to stay close. He's got the most upside of the bunch, so I think that he could really have a big game here. Specifically on FanDuel, they continue to have him underpriced as well. FanDuel having two centers underpriced on this slate. Someone had already mentioned Yusuf Nurkic's price tag all the way down to 6.1. He's very cheap. I think Jonas Valanciunas is also underpriced here at 7.7. So if you're playing on FanDuel, those two guys really stand out to me as my center plays on this slate tonight. That'd probably be my approach over there on FanDuel. On DraftKings, certainly have interest as well. He's not quite as friendly price tag, but like I said, if the game stays close, Jonas Valanciunas can put up 60 in a hurry. He's a very good fantasy point producer. Finally being able to show so on the Pelicans. He kind of had his minutes limited on the Grizzlies there for quite some time, so nice to see that. The Minnesota-Portland game. Before we get into this one, guys, quick little reminder. This video is brought to you, this stream is brought to you by Parlay Play. If you're not familiar with the Parlay Play format, I have 2 picks for you tonight that can 3x your money. This is going to be a $10 pick for me tonight over there on Parlay Play that I really do like. Going to be playing Saddiq Bey over 21.5, Kevin Durant over 41.5, and there's no there's no James Harden, and there is no Jeremiah Grant. Both these guys should get a big bump up, and I have them both projected to outscore this for a projection. And if you head on over there today, you use code KJK003, they will match your first deposit up to $50. I'm going to go ahead and help you guys out with a link as well in the chat. And you can check out Parlay Play. It's a really fun format. It's player props. It's a nice little switch up from the classic lineup build grind every single day. And you can use this link that I just dropped in the chat to check them out. How you'll place this. This is a mobile-friendly app, so you go over to Parlay Play. You're at the home screen. Click on the basketball icon once you create your account. Click on the Pistons-Nets game, and the 2 out of 2 picks, you will 3x your money. My picks are going to be the Parlay Play points, not the points, so make sure that you have the right pick here. You'll click on Jeremiah Grant to switch the player to Saddiq Bey. You'll click on James Harden to switch the player to Kevin Durant. And then above their heads where it says points, switch that to Parlay points. That's Parlay Play's format of fantasy points. I like the over 21.5 for Saddiq Bey. I like the over 41.5 for Kevin Durant. You lock both of them in. $10 for me tonight. 3x payout. That'll be $30 to add to the bankroll. So go ahead and check out Parlay Play. I put the link in the chat. It's also down below in the description. You can use the code KJK003. If you don't, and you will get that offer, you get an instant match on your first deposit up to $50. So take advantage of that free money. You also get 2 risk-free $5 wagers to enter in contests. So take advantage of the free money while you can. I always say you want to be hunting down sites that are giving out promos and stuff, especially smaller ones that are trying to build an audience, because they give a lot of free money out. And you want to take advantage of that, because sites like DraftKings and FanDuel, they're so big now. When they first started, they used to give out a bunch of free money, all this stuff. Now they don't really have to. So try to take advantage of the free money while you can. Use that code. Lock in those 2 picks. 3 extra money tonight. And let's keep winning some money over there. So this game, Minnesota taking on Portland. This is the big news. So there's a couple pieces of big news in these 2 late games. That's just going to make it really difficult on us until we know that news on this slate, unfortunately. So I'm going to try to kind of give you guys an idea of what my approach is going to be here, depending upon the news. We're waiting on Damian Lillard to get ruled in. If he does not get ruled in, going to absolutely love loading up on this Portland value. We're going to have Yusuf Nurkic, Dennis Smith Jr., Norman Powell, and Anthony Simmons would all become priorities for me, as well as Nazir Little being a pretty good value play. And you could also be looking to a Larry Nance Jr. and a Robert Covington if there is indeed no Damian Lillard. Unfortunately, we don't have that news, and unfortunately, these are the late games. So you're going to have to maybe take some risks on not playing some guys in the early games that you may want to in order to maximize on this value. And that's the scariest part of the slate for me. We're also dealing with the Anthony Davis news. Like I said, that would be a big bump up to a guy like a LeBron James and a guy like a Russell Westbrook. So unfortunately, we don't have that news. D'Angelo Russell's expected to return, but he'll be on a minutes limit from what I saw. I retweeted earlier on Twitter. If you don't follow me over there, at KJK_DFS, I try to tweet out as many updates as I can. It looks like they're going to have him on a minutes limit on this return. I'm not seeing any reports on the DraftKings lobby that says that, but I did see it from NBC Sports. Retweeted that, so I'm a little skeptical on D'Angelo Russell and his return. I would not be willing to play him because I think he's going to be limited. For that reason, you can make an argument for an Anthony Edwards or Karl-Anthony Towns getting a bump up in usage, maybe even a Malik Beasley or a Patrick Beverley. But I kind of think it's a lose-lose for this team. I think D'Angelo Russell returning is going to impact these guys just enough to where they're not too much of a viable play. And with him being limited on his minutes, I'm not going to be looking to play him. So I'd say my favorite play would be Anthony Edwards of the bunch. Reasonably priced, kind of in that mid-range in a fast up-tempo game here with a 222.5 over-under. I think he's my favorite play. That's kind of on the safer side because we know he's going to get the maximum amount of minutes no matter what D'Angelo Russell is limited to. So I like him. And the Trailblazer side is really going to depend upon this Damian Lillard news. And like I said, unfortunately, we're not going to get that news right away. That could be a benefit for you in your lineups if you play it the right way. If you wait to the late news and you find out that Damian Lillard's in, maybe you load up on him in your lineups if he's not limited and you get him at some lower ownership. And if he's out, maybe some of these guys that in your competition or in your lobby, in your contests, have played a bunch of guys from the early game. They don't have any flexibility to swap, and you're able to kind of take full advantage of that and play a bunch of these Portland guys. So that would kind of be my approach there. And yeah. Patrick Bush says, Nance starting for Covington. Does that give a boost to Nance? I don't know where you're seeing that news. Patrick, I trust you, man. But where did that come out exactly? And when did it? If that's the case, yeah, obviously that might be a big piece of news here because if he's starting, I would anticipate him to get a lot more minutes. I'm not seeing that anywhere, though, so I'm not quite sure where you're getting that information. So if you could please just let me know where you're getting that information, that'd be great. But I'm not seeing that, man. The projected lineup still has Robert Covington in there, so I'll keep my eyes on that. If that's the case, certainly he could get a big bump up. But for the time being, I think that we got to kind of stick with the traditional starting lineup here, and that has been Robert Covington. Arizona says, FanDuel says Lance is starting. Yeah, I wouldn't trust FanDuel then. If that's the case, FanDuel's not always the best with their reporting. Sometimes they just mess up with the metrics and everything. So keep your eyes on that. That's certainly worth monitoring. Okay, 3:37 p.m. Nance is slated to start at power forward Sunday against the Timberwolves. So join this lineup as a replacement for the slumping Robert Covington, who will be moved to the bench. Yeah, that's a big piece of news, so that's a good catch. If that's the case, I'd expect Larry Nance to kind of slide into that role, get all those minutes. And, yeah, so that is a good call, guys. Thank you for the update on that. That's going to factor into my projections as I continue to update them on the premium content. One other thing to bring up to you guys is you can join the KJK DFS Discord package for only $1 all month of December during the holiday season. I'm giving back to you guys. If you're getting very serious about NBA DFS, you can hop in, go on over and get the premium content as well. I know Patrick is a premium content member. You'll get all my projections, my core plays, etc. And I'm sure with this update, my projections, my core plays and stuff will be, correlated with that big news on the Larry Nance Jr. starting over Robert Covington. So good catch, guys. Yeah, that's going to be a big piece of news, and I certainly do think that gives him a bump up because that's pretty much, I think that's their way of saying we're sick of dealing with Robert Covington struggling. We're going to put Larry Nance Jr. in there and try to get a bit of a spark up in the offense. So that's going to be great, especially if there's no Damian Lillard. He would become an even better play. So that's certainly worth noting, and that's a good catch. So certainly, yeah, especially on DraftKings, he's 3.8 on FanDuel. You can give him a pretty good play. He's a very good fantasy point producer, too, is the thing about Larry Nance Jr. At 3.8 on DraftKings, looking at his production on a permanent basis throughout the season. Going down here on my sheet, let's see. Larry Nance Jr. putting up right now on a permanent basis 0.84 DK points per minute. So that's very solid stuff, especially only a 3.8 price tag. So I do think that Larry Nance Jr. certainly becomes a much better play. And, yeah. So to answer your question, I certainly do think that gives Larry Nance Jr. a big bump up. Looks like we have 6 likes, guys. If you guys are enjoying the stream, if you could please take a second to leave a like, that would be greatly appreciated. 15 people in here and only 6 likes. It takes 2 seconds. It's free, and it really does help me grow the channel. And I'm going to give you guys some good plays, continuing talking about this slate and answering all your questions. So we got a little sidetracked there with the Larry Nance Jr. stuff, but yeah, he's going to be a great play. And then Dennis Smith Jr., Norman Powell, Yusuf Nurkic, and Anthony Simmons would all be fantastic plays if there is no Damian Lillard. That is the big piece of news that we are waiting on. So we really need that news. All right, last game on the slate before we do. Quick check up on the questions. Make sure I haven't missed anything so far. Anthony says, would you prefer KD or LeBron if AD is out? So that's a very good question, and that's what we're going to talk about right now. I would prefer LeBron if the game stays close, which that's the big loaded question. Orlando is absolutely terrible defensively. You look at my premium content. For my premium content members, if you pull up the spreadsheet and you go over to my defensive half-court putbacks tool on the Patreon content, you can see that the Orlando Magic are ranked dead last in the league. They are 30th overall in points per possession rank given up. Absolutely terrible. 27th in half-court points per play rank. 24th in offensive rebounding percentage rank allowed. Half-court percentage of plays rank, meaning the plays that they're actually giving up based upon the turnovers that their offense is giving up and all that stuff. They are 21st in the league. And then if you look at the transition defensive stats on my Patreon content, it doesn't get much better. They're 25th in all transition points per possession given up, 27th in transition frequency rank allowed, so letting teams get out on the break a lot, and 25th overall in points per play rank in transition. So they're really, really bad defensively, guys. This Orlando team's terrible defensively, so I would really like LeBron if there is no Anthony Davis. The problem is we don't know that, so once again, you might want to be a little bit strategic in your lineups, maybe give yourself a little bit of flexibility. I mean, ideally, if there isn't any Anthony Davis, you could play Kevin Durant and LeBron James. I think they're both going to be very good usage guys. There's no James Harden, so Kevin Durant should get a big bump up in usage. If there's no Anthony Davis, LeBron James will get a big bump up in usage. And I had mentioned Mr. Dwight Howard taking on his former team in the Orlando Magic. I know that revenge narratives can sometimes be a little bit of a topic of debate, but I tend to think that Dwight Howard probably wants to show out pretty good against this Orlando squad, and I think that he might get a lot more minutes if there is no Anthony Davis, because when you look at the overall buildup of this Orlando Magic team, Wendell Carter Jr. and Mo Bamba in the front court, they have a bigger front court, so the need for Dwight Howard to be out there might be a lot more valid. Last time with there being no Anthony Davis, he only played around 17 minutes. Keep in mind that game was a blowout as well, but I think that Dwight Howard could maybe be a little bit of a sneakier play that some people aren't paying attention to. But certainly, LeBron James going to have a bunch of interest in him if there is no Anthony Davis. Russell Westbrook will also get a big bump up in usage here, and it's a far more likelihood that he gets there with there being no Anthony Davis. And LeBron, I think LeBron's on a mission right now. LeBron has been really kind of going after it, going hard these last few games, taking a lot of shots. And keep in mind, these last two games haven't stayed close. He's put up 63 and 59 DraftKings points the last two times out, and that's with these games blowing out. If those games stay close, that could easily be 70 plus for LeBron James. And now he gets the easiest matchup in the league. The Orlando Magic are 30th, dead last in points per possession rank. Like I said, if you are interested in my premium content, you can check it out. KJK DFS / KJK_DFS. And I'm just going to give you guys a little bit of a sneak peek as to what you could see. So let's go ahead and look at the defensive shooting accuracy sheet. So this isn't the one that I was referring to earlier when I was talking about the defense, but this is another one that I offer. This is going to give you an idea of how these defenses have fared against opposing shooters. So looking at the Orlando Magic as far as what they've given up, in the short mid-range, they're 23rd overall. Long mid-range, they're 30th overall in the league. All mid-range, they're 30th overall, giving up a lot of mid-range shots as far as points. In the non-corner and the corner rank, they're also pretty much the bottom 10 in the league. So they're not really good. Around the rim is where they really have their best stats here. Looking at the rim rank, they're 15th overall in the league. So when they're getting to the rim, teams are slashing to the rim. They're not quite doing as good of a job, or I'm sorry, they're doing a much better job of slowing them down, or not as bad of a job as they are in the mid-range and the other stuff. And I just realized my social media is still up on the screen, so I'm going to take that out of the way so you guys can see a little bit of a preview here. So yeah, this is one sheet. I'm going to keep it up on the screen just to kind of let you guys look at it for free, to kind of give back. I've been trying to give back as much as I can for free during the holiday season. Really appreciate all the support on the channel. If you are enjoying the streams, like I said, if you could hit that like button, that'd be great. But I'm going to leave this up for a little bit so you guys get a visual. Now, this is only one of the sheets on my premium content. I have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15, 16 different sheets. I got FanDuel and DraftKings projections, my 2 core plays, FanDuel and DraftKings core plays. So if I put that up on the screen, you'll see this was last night, so I'll go ahead and take that down. But FanDuel core plays, DraftKings core plays, you can see kind of who I'm looking to in my main priorities on the core play section. So this is what it'll look like before it's filled out. Once I fill it out, obviously, you'll get to see all of my core plays, all that fun stuff. And so yeah, but anyways, just wanted to show you guys, this is kind of what you'll be seeing on the back end of all my premium content. And these are the tools that I use to build my lineups. It's all color coded. It's going to help you out to determine the best spots for these players. And as I mentioned, the Orlando Magic are absolutely terrible defensively. So if there is indeed no Anthony Davis in this game, LeBron becomes a tremendous play. So, I mean, yeah, that's a tough question to answer. I would certainly think that there's a lot of merit and you would be smart to leave yourself some room to play both LeBron James and Kevin Durant, because I think they're both going to be fantastic plays on the slate if there is no Anthony Davis. But if there is Anthony Davis, this team just has 3 guys that are going to be kind of stealing each other's usage, and this game probably blows out. If you look at the current Vegas lines right now, it's a 10-point spread in favor of the LA Lakers. It did open as an 11-point spread, so I guess there's a little bit of hope there that the game stays close, but Yeah, but two biggest piece of news on this slate is Damian Lillard and Anthony Davis, and they're both in the late game. So unfortunately, with a 6 o'clock lock, you're going to be put a little bit between a rock and a hard place as far as figuring out whether you really want to fade them or not. But it would be probably smart of you to be leaving yourself some flexibility. If this game's going to stay close, obviously some guys in the Orlando side are going to have big games. So I do think that if you're playing guys on the Los Angeles Lakers side of things, it makes a lot of sense to be playing some Orlando Magic guys to run it back, because these guys are going to have big games to keep it close. And who are we going to be playing? Cole Anthony, Wendell Carter Jr., Mo Bamba, Franz Wagner. Those four guys are really the four main candidates that can have big games. They're really the ones that all the usage flows through, and they play the most minutes on this Orlando Magic offense. So my approach would be to play 1, 2, maybe even 3 of these guys if you're loading up on the Los Angeles Lakers side of things to ensure that this game stays close. Probably stick to 2, but just so you guys have an idea, like the game has to stay close for your guys to reach their full potential. So if you're playing a bunch of guys on the Lakers side and you're not playing anyone on the Orlando Magic side, you're kind of playing to the fact that it's going to be a blowout. Now, don't get me wrong. If it's a blowout, is there a chance that LeBron James does all the work and he still has a pretty decent game? Yeah, but there's a chance that he's at like 50 DraftKings points and then they bench him the rest of the game and he doesn't do anything else. And he's priced at 10-8, so you need him to have a big game here. So just a little bit of game theory advice for you guys there. If you are playing guys on the Lakers side, I would recommend that you play guys on the Orlando Magic side. And if there's no Anthony Davis, there's going to be other guys getting a bump up like a Malik Monk, a Taylor Horton Tucker, and a Carmelo Anthony, all of which would become pretty intriguing punt plays and better plays in your tournament lineups if you are doing that. So, all right, guys, looks like we have 28 people in here, only 10 likes. If you could please take a second to leave a like on the stream, that'd be greatly appreciated. We're going to run on over to FanDuel and talk about FanDuel a little bit. We talked about DraftKings, answer any of your FanDuel questions, and answer any of your questions overall on this slate. So let me know in the chat. Arizona says LeBron's been on fire, but so has KD. But to be honest, both games could be blowouts, so pick your poison. LOL. I think Lakers Magic game stays closer. Yeah, man. I think you're approaching it the right way. You kind of have to pick which game you think stays close. Hopefully they both stay close and you can play both of them in your lineups. But I think you have the right thought process. You're gonna have to certainly keep your eyes on that. Looking over at FanDuel, we talked about a few guys and the pricing discrepancies. One guy that really stands out to me on FanDuel that's too cheap is, well, there's a few guys. Josh Hart at 5'8", Jalen Brunson at 5'8", both going to be tremendous plays over here on FanDuel. I like them on both websites. But FanDuel just continues to just not want to price these guys up. Josh Hart, a guy that's consistently playing in the mid-30s minutes. He's in a good game environment in this San Antonio Spurs game where the game's expected to stay close. Faster up-tempo game like we talked about. These 3 later games, all 220 plus, whereas the 2 early games are barely over 200. So that's certainly something to be factoring into your lineups. Over on FanDuel, I think Josh Hart's a tremendous play if you're playing over here. I also think Jalen Brunson is a tremendous play. If you didn't watch my video earlier, Jalen Brunson is my lock of the night. I think it's just too good of a spot to avoid. There's no Luka Doncic. You take Luka Doncic out of the equation. You factor in that Jalen Brunson's price tag wasn't adjusted because the websites didn't know in time to adjust the price tags for Luka Doncic being out. I think Jalen Brunson becomes a tremendous play on this slate. Kind of an obvious no-brainer play. He grades out as one of the best plays in my projection model right now from an upside at his price tag aspect, which is what I always talk about to you guys. That's what you need in your tournament lineups. You need guys to outperform their prices. So that's exactly what you're going to be looking to. Patrick says, the sheets help build your lineups. It really helped me a lot. Yeah, Patrick, I appreciate that, man. Talking about the premium content that I provide. Thank you very much. If you have any questions, Patrick, let me know in the chat, but I appreciate your support. And some other guys on FanDuel, like we talked about, the point guard position. If there is indeed no Damian Lillard, we're obviously going to be having some more interest in guys like a Dennis Smith, an Anthony Simmons. Could also be taking a hard look to a Cade Cunningham now that there is indeed no Jeremiah Grant. Cade Cunningham certainly going to get a big bump up in usage. His last few games, he's been a little bit underwhelming. He's been right above the 30 points mark. We're really going to need a lot more than that out of him at a 7-4 price tag. If we're looking to play him, we're going to need 40 plus, more towards like that 45-point game that he put up against Oklahoma City. But with Jeremiah Grant being out, I think that this certainly is an opportunity for him to kind of get back to that point range. So Cade Cunningham, no issues with you going to him over here on FanDuel. We've been discussing how Larry Nance is expected to start for the Trailblazers now all of a sudden. He's priced at 4.9. It's a pretty respectable price tag. Another guy that's underpriced in the Portland Trailblazers is Yusuf Nurkic at 6.1 on FanDuel. His minutes just really haven't been there for me, and I haven't been playing him for that reason. He was playing like right around 20 minutes However, the last 2 games, he's been up to 27 and 30. If he's getting around 30 minutes at a 6-1 price tag on FanDuel, he becomes an absolute phenomenal play. Grading out as the best play on the slate for me right now over on FanDuel, actually at an upside at his price tag aspect in my projection model. So I love Yusuf Nurkic over here. Other guys that you could be looking to over on FanDuel. Well, Kevin Durant's certainly going to be a priority for me. We talked about it. There's no James Harden in this game, so it's kind of a no-brainer. But if you're not prioritizing Kevin Durant, I certainly think that you should be. You take James Harden out of the equation. Kevin Durant's going to take on all the usage. He's going to have a tremendous ceiling, and he's a guy that I'm certainly going to be getting a lot of exposure to. It's really just a question of if Anthony Davis is in, like we talked about, his comparison to LeBron. I think my approach is going to be to try to have room to play both of these guys, and we still have to get the confirmation on the Damian Lillard news too, guys. So try to leave yourself some flexibility to react to that news. It's tough because if we do get confirmation that Damian Lillard and Anthony Davis are both ruled in, and you leave yourself that room, like obviously these Lakers guys become far less priorities for us, and then you're kind of forced to play them, and the game could turn into a blowout. So it's just kind of the nature of this slate tonight. That's going to make it really tough on us, but so you're going to have to decide. Maybe you load up on the early game. There are some pretty solid value plays from this Detroit Pistons team now that there's no Jeremiah Grant. I think that Diallo becomes a much more intriguing play. He's 4-9 over here on FanDuel. I think that he gets a big bump up in minutes and usage off the bench with there being no Jeremiah Grant, believe it or not. We see this guy play up to 29 minutes before in these games. Depending upon who the starting lineup is for the Detroit Pistons, we'll certainly confirm that. Another guy that could maybe take a big bump up is a Josh Jackson. Josh Jackson's only 3-7 over here on FanDuel if we do get confirmation that he's going to crack the starting lineup. So, I mean, yeah, going to be a tremendous play. And it's until we get the news of the starting lineup, until we get the news on Damian Lillard, until we get the news on Anthony Davis, we're a little bit hung up in the air here. So we'll certainly be keeping our eyes on that. Colin says, sorry I'm late. Could you recap DraftKings best plays? Yeah, man, I can do a quick little recap for you. I mean, I'll be answering any other questions in the chat. So as far as the DraftKings best plays, all right, let's do a little bit of side-by-side with my projections here. Some of the guys that we talked about. For Jalen Brunson is my lock of the night. Colin, if you weren't able to tune into the video earlier that I put out, Jalen Brunson, absolutely love him on both websites. He's going to be too cheap. There's no Luka Doncic tonight, so he's a tremendous play over here on DraftKings. Some other guys that I'm looking to on DraftKings that are standing out to me. I do think that Diallo on the Detroit Pistons is going to get a bump up in minutes and usage with there being no Jeremiah Grant now. And he's really cheap over here on DraftKings, specifically at 3.6. So I think that he's a pretty good tournament play for you tonight. Lou Dort's only 5.7 over here on DraftKings, and he's playing for this Oklahoma City squad, getting quite a bit of usage. I think he's a little bit underpriced in that upper to 5K range, kind of like a Jalen Brunson who we discussed. A guy that's playing in the mid-30s minutes. He's put up 37, 40 DraftKings points, 2 out of the last 3. If he's only at 5.7, that would certainly make you a happy camper if he's able to kind of have another good performance like that. Isaiah Stewart's a guy that I like on both websites that I actually don't think I quite mentioned yet. So Isaiah Stewart's certainly going to be a great option. Like we talked about, there's no Jeremiah Grant now. Isaiah Stewart's the starting center, and you can play him. He's power forward eligible over on FanDuel as well. So you're practically getting a starting center at the power forward position, which I would always encourage you to be doing on FanDuel. Certainly be taking advantage of the positional eligibility on these websites. And Isaiah Stewart definitely standing out to me as a great play. He's just going to get a bump up in usage now. There's no Jeremiah Grant. He's the starting center. You can play him at power forward on FanDuel. It's an absolute no-brainer for me at a 5.8 price tag. I'm going to like him quite a bit. On DraftKings at 5.4, he's even cheaper. At the center position, he stands out as a great value play on this slate for me tonight. So he's another guy that I would certainly be looking to. The Prince says, KJK, is there any way you could put filters on your sheet? Yeah, man, there is. I had the filters built in automatically on your end as the premium member. If you go to Google Docs and you create a temporary filter, it'll filter all of the sheets for you, and then you can sort it just like I do. So, like, for instance, I can sort my sheet by salary right now in front of your face. So, like, that's all the 3,000 guys. I go down, I sort A to Z or Z to A, and that'll sort the sheet. So how you would do that, man, is you want to create a temporary filter. And you should be using those filters. That's going to help you out a lot, man. So I'm sorry that you didn't know that. Eventually, I'd like to put out a video on how to use my premium content, and I'm going to upload that with all of my different packages, so I'll help you out. But yeah, you can create a temporary filter in Google Docs. When you create that temporary filter, it'll put a filter across all of my columns, and you can sort all my sheets. So sorry you didn't know that, because that's certainly, yeah, you said you can't do it on the phone. Yeah, man, you gotta get a computer, man. Hopefully you have a computer, access to a computer. If you don't, hopefully we can get you a big win on DraftKings or FanDuel so we can buy you one, because that's gonna help you out a lot. But like you always do, man, just ask me questions in the Discord chat. Like if you need help on the top 5 like multiplier metric plays in my model or anything, always willing to help you out with that. So, but if you can get a computer, that'll help you out a lot, because there's a lot of stuff going on. You know, it's a big spreadsheet full of information. So. Larry Banks says, any Cameron Thomas for you? Yeah, I think Cameron Thomas is an interesting option. I don't know which website you're playing on, Larry, so that would help me to clarify, but I think that he's an interesting option. There's no James Harden. He's played 25 minutes, 32 minutes the last 2 times out. On DraftKings specifically at 3.5, I think he's a phenomenal play. On FanDuel, looking to Cameron Thomas and his price tag. Let's see. Cameron Thomas, he's at 3.9. So, yeah, I think he's certainly a valid play on this slate tonight. We talked about some other guys kind of priced in the same price range. And, yeah, I think that Cam Thomas is certainly viable. Looking at his production on a permanent basis as far as DraftKings is concerned, let's see. What did we just talk about? He's priced at 3.5. Going down to his permanent production, I think he's a pretty good fantasy point producer as well. I can pretty much guarantee it, but we're going to put it on the screen. 0.71 DK points per minute. Okay, so nothing too crazy, but definitely not bad. And he's certainly cheap. Problem is, it's kind of a slower paced game, Larry, so I'm not really sure that you really want to be prioritizing him. We talked about some other guys that could possibly get a big bump up with some injuries, maybe a Josh Jackson on the Detroit Pistons side of things. So that's certainly someone that I would be looking to on this slate tonight as well. The Prince says, I have one, but out and about. Yeah, no, I feel you, man. If you got asked in the premium content for the Discord, if you need to ask like my multiplier metrics or anything, certainly do. If you guys are tuning into the stream and you're enjoying the content, please take a second to leave a like on the stream. It really does help me out. We got 24 people in here and only 12 likes. If you could take a second to hit that like button, that would be greatly appreciated. And if you didn't know, the sponsor of the channel is Parlay Play. If you're not familiar with Parlay Play, go ahead and check them out, guys. I have 2 picks on this slate tonight. There's no Jeremiah Grant. It's going to give a big bump up to Sadiq Bey. I have him over 21.5 parlay points. Kevin Durant over 41.5 parlay points. You can sign up on Parlay Play today. It's a player prop site. They have NFL, NBA, all this fun stuff. And this is the Parlay Play Bankroll Challenge that I've put together. We started with $10. We've turned that into $40. We have multiplied our money by 4. And if you look at our record, we're only 3-5. So, you know, that kind of puts a smile on my face. It's definitely possible to be profitable and not perfect, guys. I mean, I'm 3-5 on my picks, and I've multiplied my money by 4 in the Parlay Play format. So check them out. These are my 2 picks. How you would place that is you're going to go over to here to the Parlay Play website. Click on the basketball icon on the home screen. Go to the Nets-Pistons game. Pick the player. So you click on the player. You can pick different players from the game. Pick Sadiq Bey. Pick Kevin Durant. And above their head is where it says points. Select Parlay Points. That's Parlay Play's format for fantasy points. So I certainly would go with that. That's my pick. Lock that in. Feeling really good about it. And like I said, if you do use my link that I'm going to put in the chat right now, you get an instant match up to $50. You also get 2 risk-free $5 entries. So really would recommend that. Like I said, go ahead and lock in those 2 picks that I have for the Parlay Play Challenge tonight. Sadiq Bey over 21.5 parlay points. Kevin Durant over 41.5 parlay points. Both teams dealing with injuries. Jeremiah Grant being out. James Harden being out. Should give a bump up to these 2 guys. And I like that pick. So lock that in for tonight. And let's answer any more questions that you guys have before I get out of here on the stream. I'm going to be hanging out for another 20 minutes. And then I got to head on over and update my projections, my core plays, all that fun stuff for my premium content members. Arizona says, is this what Nets lineup going to look like? Mills, KD, Bembry, Johnson, and Aldridge. I think Mills too cheap on FanDuel. Well, let's go ahead and pull up the projected lineup for you, man. The Nets are projected to roll out Cam Thomas, Patty Mills, DeAndre Bembry, Kevin Durant, and LaMarcus Aldridge. So that is the projected lineup. Cam Thomas, we talked about him a little bit. If you want to get some exposure to him, I wouldn't call you crazy. I just don't think he's the best fantasy point producer. There might be some better options. If you need the salary relief and you want to go there, I certainly think he's a decent option. So if you want to play some Cam Thomas tonight, just keep in mind, like we talked about, he only produces on about a 0.71 DraftKings point per minute rate. If he's playing 25 to 30 minutes, though, when he's only priced at 3.5, he could certainly get there. It's just, is there an opportunity cost there with some of these other high usage guards that we talked about that you could be filling in these positions with, like a Jalen Brunson, for instance, that we talked about at 5'3", no Luka Doncic, my favorite play on the slate, lock of the night. So do we really want to go there when we could go to some of these other guys? That's the question that you kind of have to ask yourself. All right, guys, let me know if you have any more questions in the chat, please. I will answer all of them. We have 21 people in here, only 12 likes. If you could take a second to leave a like on the stream, that'd be awesome. Trying to get to 20 likes, that is the goal on all these streams. I'll be here all NBA DFS season long, breaking down these NBA DFS slates to help you guys become better NBA DFS players, help you guys win some money every night, night in and night out. If you are interested in some premium content, I do offer a premium package that's going to be linked below in the description. I also will put it in the chat for you guys. Patreon.com/KJK_DFS. And you get access to all my projections. And I also have been putting it up on the screen for free. A little bit of a sneak peek for you guys. One of these sheets. I keep forgetting how many sheets I have. I have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15, 16 different sheets. Here's one of them. This is my defense shooting accuracy sheet. This is going to show you how each team defensively has fared against opposing shooters and how they've allowed them to knock down certain shots. So, for instance, if you come over to this sheet, you can go ahead and sort it by, let's see, all 3 rank and figure out the teams that have been the worst at defending the three-point shot. So, Memphis is dead last in the league right now, 30th in the league at defending the three-pointer. Portland, second to last. Detroit, third to last. New Orleans, fourth to last. Portland, Detroit, and New Orleans, all 3 of these teams are on the slate tonight, so it might be a pretty good idea to be playing opposing players that are good at shooting the three-pointer against those 3 teams, Portland, Detroit, and New Orleans. And this is just one sheet that I offer over here. So if you are interested, check that out. That's linked below in the description, linked in the chat. It is a cost of $19.99 a month, and I think you're going to get your return on investment very, very quickly if you become a premium member. You get my core plays, all that fun stuff. And I think it's a very good value at $19.99, guys, with all the different sheets that I offer over there. Going to be well worth your money to be investing in that if you're getting serious about NBA DFS. If you just like to have fun, you don't want to put the money towards it, that's perfectly understandable. I'll be providing free content all season long. So if you feel like you don't really fall into that category of serious, don't worry. Don't feel bad. That's all good. But if you do, I would highly recommend getting the premium content package. All right, guys, let me know if you have any more questions. I'm going to be hanging around for like another 5 minutes or so. It looks like the questions are kind of dying down. So I think we've done a pretty good job of covering the slate. Looking at the injury news, I don't think we've had anything else come in here. If we have, we're waiting on the Damian Lillard. We're waiting on the Anthony Davis. That's certainly going to be some big, big news. And it doesn't look like anything's come in yet. So I'm going to bounce out of here. I'm going to update my projections. I'm going to update my core plays, all that fun stuff. If you guys have any questions you really want to ask, I'm going to give one last call. I'm going to hang around for another 60 seconds here just to make sure I'm not leaving anyone hanging. Ask any questions you want in the chat. But other than that, looks like we're pretty good here. So I'm going to bounce out, update my projections, update my core plays, build my own lineups, all that fun stuff. The legend says, thoughts on playing Franz Wagner? Yeah, I think that Franz Wagner is certainly a viable play. I don't know which website you're playing on, but like I said, if you're playing someone on the Lakers side of the things, I certainly think it makes sense to run it back with Franz Wagner and or other Orlando players. So guys like a Cole Anthony, a Mo Bamba, a Wendell Carter Jr., I think it would be smart of you to be playing them in lineups where you're playing Lakers players because they really need this game to stay close to get their full upside out of them, and it's a 10-point spread, so I think naturally it would make sense to be playing some Orlando Magic guys. If you are playing some LA Lakers guys, I think it'd be smart to run it back with them to ensure that, you're getting the full amount of run out of your Lakers players. And if the game doesn't stay close and it turns to a blowout, unfortunately, you're probably going to have a pretty bad night. But If you're playing in these tournaments and trying to win those big prizes up top, like I know I am, where there's a lot of people and there's like $20,000, $50,000, $100,000 to first every night, you're going to want to make sure that you're correlating your lineup in the most upside correlated way possible. And the way to do that would ensure that this LA Lakers and Orlando Magic game stays close, because if it doesn't, you're not going to get the full amount of potential out of your LA Lakers players. So if you're playing LA Lakers guys, I think it makes even more sense to play Franz Wagner, and I certainly think he's a viable play on this slate tonight. So there's your answer to that question, Legend. And yeah, guys, that's going to be all from me in this one. I'm going to head out. If you did enjoy the content, guys, I would really greatly appreciate it if you leave a like on the stream, subscribe to the channel, hit the notification bell so you don't miss any future content that I upload. It really does mean a lot to me. And I wish you guys all the best of luck tonight. Before I head out, one last question to answer. The Legend says, what's the over-under for Lakers and Magic? So I'll answer that real quick for you, man. It's a 220 over-under. So that's it for me, guys. Wish you all the best of luck tonight. We'll see you in the next one. Hit that like button before you head out. Wish you all the best of luck. Peace.